Now, from Wish TV, your local news source, this is All Indiana Politics.
It's Sunday morning. Welcome to another edition of All Indiana Politics. I'm Phil Sanchez. Uncertainty remains for millions of Americans and hundreds of thousands of Hoosiers receiving SNAP benefits. The FSSA says November benefits will be delayed into this week, and a court case between multiple cities and nonprofits is being fought against the Trump administration. A judge has recently ruled the administration must fully fund SNAP benefits this month, but the administration is appealing. Let's go ahead and bring in Emily Bryant, Executive Director of Feeding Indiana's Hungry. Emily, good to see you. What do you think is getting lost in the conversation surrounding SNAP and WIC amid the shutdown?
I think what's getting lost is that it's putting critical federal nutrition programs at risk that help families put food on the table and in support of their communities. And so we know, for example, many who use SNAP are children. Every child deserves the opportunity to grow, to learn, to thrive, and that starts with access to nutritious food. And so we know when children are nourished, families and communities grow stronger. In Indiana, 1 in 5 Hoosier children experienced food insecurity in the most recent data that we have. And with this shutdown now into its second month, there are delayed paychecks for federal employees, government contractors. Military paychecks could shortly be affected, and this is disrupting parents' access to SNAP. SNAP helps more than 40 million people across the country, including 16 million children. And so I think what's getting lost in the conversation are who are these Americans and these Hoosiers who are being impacted most.
Emily, what do you want the public to know that maybe they're not seeing when they watch the political back and forth when it comes to this?
I think the first thing that I would want anyone to know, whether they are struggling right now or they know folks who are, is that our member food banks, and there are 11 in our organization that are all Feeding America affiliates, and they serve regions of Indiana, have been working overtime and adding distributions, adding food, adding access since October. Our members reached out very early to federal employees and are doing direct distributions to TSA at the airport. They're making programs available or systems access for smaller government employees. We've reached out to this and just from the get-go to make sure that people who are directly impacted by their paychecks were getting help or knew where to get help. Since then, all of our members have increased their food purchasing budget, which is sort of the third stream of how our members source food. We're opening more hours, we're adding more mobile distributions, or we're pushing more food out to the thousands of pantries that we help, or a combination of those things. And so there has been a tremendous effort from the charitable sector to do what we can to help Hoosiers who are more at risk of hunger now than they were before the government shutdown. But I think what's important for folks to realize is that we could have a voice in reaching out to our elected officials and asking them to come together to end the shutdown, to fund federal nutrition programs, and to make programs that are now limping along or changing how they're operating, to make those fully effective and reaching those who need them.
To that point, Emily, should state lawmakers set up some type of mechanism for the state to step in the event of a loss of funding in the future?
So we're in pretty regular contact with both the governor's office and the state administrators for the programs that provide nutrition services. I know that the program administrators are working very diligently as quickly as possible to get that benefit out to folks. We know that the WIC program, they have federally found and moved funding for that to continue operating. And sort of the third big space for this is child nutrition programs. Those are reimbursed, and so we haven't seen any hiccups in that space either. Many state governments, many state governors or legislatures, if they've been in session, have provided additional funding for food banks or for SNAP benefits. We're certainly having those conversations. We've not yet come to what that path forward will look like.
What are some of the other food assistance programs that the shutdown jeopardizes? Which programs, maybe besides SNAP and WIC, are you specifically worried about?
So SNAP and WIC are the big two. The child nutrition meals that children get at schools or after care or those are so we've not seen much disruption, we've not seen any disruption really in those programs, and we wouldn't for a time, so long as at some point someone is if USDA comes back in and are able to process those payments. One of the things that we're watching carefully as food banks is our members have the contracts to distribute USDA commodity food programs. The orders for those programs come directly to our docks by the truckload. And then we know that those truckloads that have been processed and ordered and finalized, we will continue to see. They will continue to show up at the dock. We know that to be the case through November. There will be some disruption in December, and in January, there will be a serious disruption if the USDA is not back working, if the government is still shut down and there aren't staff there to make and finalize orders. So that is a long-term issue for us that we may see at the beginning of next year. And even with the shutdown of this length, there may still be a blip if USDA is back to work by the time this airs. They're going to start making those purchases again, but there may be a lag time just from folks not being there to do the work.
Is this the worst you've ever seen it?
This is the longest shutdown I have seen, and this is the third one that I have seen. The longest full shutdown in 18 and 19, it was only a partial government shutdown. This is the first time in history that there has been a problem with SNAP benefits going out. The numbers for SNAP in the last decade have, for the most part, after the pandemic, sort of slowly declined. And so SNAP enrollment numbers are not significantly higher than what we have seen in previous years, but food insecurity numbers continue to go up and have each year for the last several years. And so it concerns me in that there are people who should be accessing SNAP that aren't right now. Benefits would have started to go out in Indiana on the 5th. And so there's already a few days of distribution that haven't happened, but for about the same number of neighbors that our food banks serve that are using and able to use SNAP benefits and are eligible, there's another significant portion that isn't eligible and they're relying only on the charitable sector. And so this pressure the shutdown not only puts pressure on people receiving SNAP benefits, but it puts pressure on those who aren't eligible, who still need food assistance, because it's just creating more pressure on the charitable sector.
What do you recommend to viewers who maybe want to help out and spread the word and have their voices heard? What do you recommend to them who may be watching this?
If you want to make their voices heard, please contact your member of Congress. We need for them to put the government back to work. We need for them to fully fund the nutrition programs that provide access to food for millions of Americans and hundreds of thousands of Hoosiers. We need to make sure that folks know if they need assistance. We would encourage them to visit the Community Compass app and website that's run by our partners at Indy Hunger Network. You can find access to food sites, whether it be a pantry, a meal program, or other operations close to where you live or to where you work by searching by your address. It's also a great place to find out where to volunteer in your neighborhood or near to you. You can ask at those same places if they're in need of help. We would encourage folks who are able to contribute monetarily to our member food banks because they're able to turn $1 into multiple meals. Our members are ordering food by the truckload, and frankly, many truckloads have enough price in what you or I could do picking up food and taking it to a food bank or a food pantry. Yeah. And our members work with about 1,400 pantries, soup kitchens, organizations across the state to provide them food for distribution as well. And so it's the most efficient way to be effective.
Okay. Well, hopefully we have some resolution soon. Emily Bryant, the Executive Director of Feeding Indiana's Hungry, thank you so much for sharing some information for us and joining us here on the show. Thank you. All right, coming up, the government shutdown is also impacting child care. Head Start Indiana has already had to suspend programs. Why more could face the same fate after the break. Welcome back. Head Start programs in Indiana might soon have to close if the federal government shutdown continues. Fremont Community Schools in northern Indiana ran 3 Head Start programs, all of them shuttered at the end of October. News 8's government reporter Garrett Bergquist explains how that's impacting families.
Nearly 150 families in northeast Indiana are entering November with no prospects for childcare.
A lot of these families are suffering. They might work 2 jobs and just making ends meet. And now, for some of them, they might have to stop their own work to be at home because their kids at home.
Fremont Community Schools serves a rural area near the Michigan line. Stitz says there are very few childcare options in that area. It's one of 6 Head Start programs in Indiana that were supposed to begin their new funding cycle this month. The other 5 found temporary funding, but they don't know if they can keep it up past November 30th.
I don't know if disappointment is the correct word, if it's a strong enough word to use, but disappointment that our federal government can't come together and help out some of our most needy families.
The Indiana Head Start Association says there are 42 Head Start programs in the state. They serve about 13,000 kids every year and employ about 4,000 people.
It's not just early care and education. It's really fantastic nutrition. It's wraparound services such as health services. It's about helping change the dynamic of multiple generations of families.
Cecil says Head Start programs renew their federal grants annually. They don't all start their budgets in the same month, so most Indiana programs still have time. He says 2 more programs begin their budget cycle next month. Until there's a deal to reopen the government, Stitz says he's connecting parents with what resources there are in his area.
Our hope is when the government shutdown ends, that within a day or 2, that budget gets approved, and our Head Start is back in business. But it's a waiting game.
I'm Garrett Bergquist for Wish TV and WishTV.com.
Cecil recommends parents with children in Head Start programs to stay in touch with the program. He also says you should contact your representatives. Well, Indiana Attorney General Todd Rokita is suing IPS, saying school policies restrict federal immigration enforcement. The 28-page complaint filed Thursday details a specific incident where school policies stop federal agents from deporting an Indianapolis student. The lawsuit claims federal agents contacted IPS searching for the son of a Honduran national scheduled for a deportation flight. Now, it says the school refused because agents didn't have a warrant or court order. Instead, teachers and staff called an immigration attorney. The suit says a woman identified as the stepmother asked the child to be released to the attorney's custody, which IPS did. Rokita says the policy violates state law. Rokita declined an interview with News 8, but posted about the lawsuit in a video statement.
We warned IPS to stop these sanctuary policies or face the consequences in court. They didn't listen.
IPS responded with this statement, saying IPS affirms that it has been actively collaborating with Indiana Attorney General's office to review relevant policies and procedures. Unfortunately, despite taking 6 months to craft his opinion on IPS's policies, Mr. Rokita permitted only 5 business days from the time IPS received his review to respond, and then refused IPS's request for any additional time. Yet, these important issues deserve thoughtful, deliberative weighing of important legal rights, not impulsive, superficial efforts for political gain. Coming up, the government shutdown is now the longest in history, but who is most to blame? 2 members of Indiana's best political team is here to weigh in. All right, welcome back to All Indiana Politics as we welcome in 2 members of Indiana's best political team, Republican Mario Massillamany and Democrat Lara Beck. Good to see you both.
Hi.
Thank you so much for stopping by. Lots to talk about this week. Let's start with the uncertainty surrounding SNAP benefits. Okay, so the Trump administration doesn't want to fund the benefits during the shutdown. Local governments, nonprofits, trying to pick up the pieces, and caught in the middle, the people who unfortunately are waiting for their next meal. We'll start with you on this one, Lara. I mean, a lot of back and forth. Where do we begin and when does it end?
Well, I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, so I can't say where it ends and where it begins. I think probably what the most important thing that we need to remember is that in previous shutdowns, SNAP benefits have been funded. You can tap into contingency funding to do that. And the Trump administration, Donald Trump, is making a decision not to do this, to put further pain on people, particularly so we feel the effects of the shutdown. And we're looking at a situation where we have 44% of people on SNAP are under the age of 18. And you have children who are going hungry. But at the same time, you've got a ballroom that's being built in the White House. You've got, a brand new marble bathroom. And I think this is a question of priorities. I think we do need people to come to the table. We do need people to get this done. But I do think that there should be the political will to fund SNAP. So people who are the most vulnerable. I mean, we're talking about people with disabilities. We are talking about people who desperately need that food. We should be able to find the political will to get that done.
Mario, your thoughts?
I think we need to have the political will to fund this economy and get the country back moving. The Republicans on the Senate side have tried to pass 11 different bills that include SNAP funding in it, and the Democrats have voted against it. Now, I'm not trying to blame it on Democrats. Democrats are trying to get things accomplished as part of negotiation tactics. I think that Trump is trying to use this as leverage to try and get both sides to the table to get something accomplished, because this is the longest running shutdown at this point.
Yep.
When is the end in sight? People had talked about, possibly this week. Now people are telling me it could be before Thanksgiving. So I think he's trying to put pressure on both sides to get something done.
Yeah, but I think the other part too is we talk about this and we look at it from all sides and the all side perspective, right? I mean, the Democrats have been very clear. We will come to the table, we will negotiate when you restore the healthcare funding that had been cut, right? That's been the line in the sand. And I think what you're also seeing, though, is I don't necessarily think Trump wants to negotiate with Democrats. I think he wants to put pressure on Republicans, particularly Republicans in the Senate, to get rid of the filibuster so he can then have more leverage and push through more things he wants to do. So that's what I have found kind of interesting about watching this whole process, is that it's kind of like in Indiana. He's putting the pressure on the Republican legislators to do what I want you to do to get the outcome that I want. And I think that is really creating a really tough environment for everybody.
Another big part of the conversation, of course, is, flights. They're being canceled too all across the country, and it's only going to get worse if this thing goes on. So, this is not good, Mario. Politically speaking, who looks, in your opinion, does this fall on Republicans, fall on Democrats? Who looks worse here?
I think it looks bad for both sides. Looking at recent polling, I think that both sides look terrible. Trump's approval ratings have gone down significantly, but so have the Democrats. Their approval rating has a rock bottom. So at some point, Indiana, Hoosiers, and the citizens of the United States just want a fix. They want this thing to get done. And if this goes into Thanksgiving, there will be hell to pay. And I think that both sides are going to reap the negative consequences of what's going to happen.
Quickly, Lara, I'll let you respond, then I want to move on quickly.
Well, I think when we look at the flight issue and we look at that piece of it, there was an interesting statistic. 20% of Americans fly 3 or more times a year, right? But you're heading into Thanksgiving. It's a really busy time of year. What I think is happening is the the Democrats probably feel very buoyed by Tuesday's election results, right? They probably feel very strong going into that, hey, we're going to continue to hold the line. The challenge becomes the average person sees the shutdown, they see the impact, and they want it fixed.
Right.
And that's where I think we're going to probably have to see some movement at some point in time.
And I think that Democrats are a little too confident over Tuesday's results.
Oh, come on.
No, I really do.
You were going to say that. I knew you were going to go there.
Most Republicans, including myself, were happy that Mamdani won.
Why? Go ahead.
Why? Because now in 2020, he's offered free buses. He's offered to create free grocery stores to give out free food. He's wanting to do rent stabilization.
I shouldn't
You
have
guys,
brought up the election.
we're gonna have to. All right.
You love your Democratic Socialist.
Unfortunately, we're out of time, you
I can't wait
Thank
to
you so
utilize
much for
him
stopping
in
by.
2026.
Thank you very much. I knew this was going to turn into that. Thank you so much for stopping by, guys.
You're welcome.
Good conversation as always. We will be right back. Thank you for joining us for All Indiana Politics this week. We'll be back here next Sunday morning at 9:30, and be sure to check out the All Indiana Politics podcast at wishtv.com. Have a great weekend.